All right, our learning sponsors, Sue and Year of Learning, Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malka Pearl Mann and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pearl Razna Bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Sorry. And in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Shall share her children and grandchildren. I'm just going to get a cup of water. I'll be right back. Okay. Okay. Shall share children and grandchildren in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Arav Akiva, Marsha Fetterbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Fetterbush, Oriel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan, friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, Martha Gidler, Sharna Bas Yeshaya, friends of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. The month of learning sponsored by Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his brother Yaakov ben Avraham, Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of his father David ben Fishel Halevi, and her mother Bela Bas Avraham, Dov Bodlander, in memory of his wife Udal bat Yehuda Tzvi, as well as a month of learning by Stephanie and Fred Mortman for the refuah shlema of her daughter Mazal bat Sarah Malka. Today being the 8th of July, we have a Day of Learning Plus Torah Fund by Judy Fuchs in memory of her father Eliyahu ben Yitzchak Isaac. And Hashemas have an aliyah, crank Rafia, Velti Yashir Hashem Atzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Gaben Shtiyah. Right. All right. Don't see Zev. So we'll see. Okay. We're on 88A. Okay. I'm just going to go back a little bit. And remember, we're not going to totally finish the Amud today, or that we'll save for the Siyum on Monday. Okay? But the Gemara was dealing with whether or not the issue of the Ne'ilah service was such that whether it was simply an additional Amida or it was more than that. And if one recites it, does that imply that one is exempt from the Avening Marav at that night on Motzei Yom Kippur? Okay? And so the Gemara had a statement by Rav Amar Rav Tfilat Ne'ilah Poteret Et Shel Arvit. That was Rav's position. Rav Latame Damar Tzluta Yatira Hi, that it's simply the addition of another Amida prayer. Kevan detzalile tu lo tzarich. You didn't need to do any further praying that night. Umiyamar Rav Hachi, asked the Gemara, did Rav really say it that way? Va'amar Rav, isn't this what Rav said in another occasion? Acha kedivrei ha'omer tfilat arvit reshut. Right? That at that time, okay, they understood that the evening service was optional. The divrei ha'omer chova ka'amar. No, says the Gemara, he said that only in regards to an opposing view, which said that Mariv was mandatory, obligatory, okay? Implying that, yes, a prayer in the evening is obligatory, but if you add, implying as if you add the additional Amida for Ne'ilah, that's Genug. That's enough. May Tive. Now we get to Gemara's challenge and objection. Orle Yom HaKippurim. Evening, right, of Yom Kippur. Mitpalel Sheva u'mitvadeh. He prays 7 blessings of the Amida and confesses. Shachrit Sheva u'mitvadeh. In Shachrit, 7 blessings of the Amida and confesses. Just a reminder that the implication was always the individual would pray his Amida first and then do the confession afterwards. Musaf, Sheva u'mitvadeh. In the Musaf, 7 blessings and then confess. B'ne'ilah mitpalel Sheva u'mitvadeh. And in Ne'ilah, again, 7 blessings and then confess. Arvit mitpalel Sheva me'ein shmona esrei. Okay? According to this Braita, right, that the Gemara is quoting, for Mariv, one would still pray, but they would do the abridged version of the Shmona Esrei. Okay? Now, responding, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel mishum avotav mitpalel Shmona Esrei shlemot. That Rabbi Chanina, son of Rabbi Gamliel, said in the name of his ancestors, he would pray the full Shmona Esrei, in other words, the weekday, normal Shmona Esrei, as usual. And then we go over, Mipnei shetzarich lomar havdalah b'chonen hadad. Right. He needs to recite, right, havdalah in the chonen hadad blessing, the first blessing that acknowledges, okay, differentiation, knowledge. Titania, as taught elsewhere in a Braita, Kol chayavei tvilot tovlin kedarkan b'yom haKippurim. Namely, all those women who have the obligation to immerse themselves and the date falls out on Yom Kippur, it is appropriate that they do so. Okay? That seems to be the case that this Braita is telling us. And so the Gemara continues, Nida violetet tovlot kedarkan b'leilei Yom HaKippurim. That a woman who has given birth, or a woman who is Nida and goes to mikvah, does so in the usual manner, right, the night of Yom Kippur. Furthermore, the Braita said, Baal Keri, Toveil v'holech ad hamincha. Namely, that if one who was a Baal Keri, who had some sort of a mission, on even Yom Kippur day, would still go to mikvah that day and immerse, so long as he could do so up till the time for the mincha service. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Kol Hayom Kulo. And Rabbi Yossi disagreed by saying that the Baal Keri could do so the entire day. Now, the implication being, of course, was that he could not continue davening mincha or other things like ne'ilah in his condition of being a Baal Keri. Okay? Now, the Gemara questions this and raises a contradiction. Or minhu. We have the following, says the contradiction. On the one hand, there's a braita that says, Hazav v'hazava, hamitzora v'hamitzorat, a man or a woman who is a zava zava, okay, who has had some sort of a flow, or hamitzorat, as well as hamitzora, or a male or female person, okay, or uboel nida, or somebody who had relations with a woman that was nida, utmei mate, or someone who had contact with a corpse, tovlin kedarkan biyom hakippurim, that they will emerge, okay, on the day of Yom Kippur. Okay? Now that adds additional individuals to the earlier braita that seem to have limited only to a yoledet and a nida. Okay? Even though this one, okay, doesn't say, this braita doesn't specifically spell them out. However, the braita continues. Nida v'yoledet tovlot kedarkan b'leilei yom hakippurim. And according to this braita, the nida and the yoledet, giving birth or being a nida, they can immerse in the evening in their manner, okay, on the night of Yom Kippur. Baal Keri tovel v'holech kol hayom kulo. And the Baal Keri, a man who saw some sort of a mission, could during the day go and immerse, implying that in all of these situations, that required immersion is not considered washing on Yom Kippur. Okay? Rabbi Yossi Omer, min hamincha ulamala ein yachol litbol. According to Rabbi Yossi, okay, from mincha time onwards, he cannot immerse. Now, what's our problem? Immediately we see there's a contradiction in what Rabbi Yossi said. Previously, he said a person could, regarding the Baal Keri, immerse throughout the entire day. Now, in this second braita, we see what he's telling us, this Rabbi Yossi, is that it's limited. It's only up till the time of Mincha. Okay? But after that, he could not immerse on Yom Kippur Day. Lo kasha, says the rabbis, the Gemara. Ha, in one case, ditzale tfilat ne'ilah, a situation where he's already prayed the ne'ilah prayer. Okay, implying perhaps, like Rav said, that it was simply an additional amida. Ha delot sali. And here in the other case, he is not prayed. I ditzali. If he prayed, asks the Gemara, ma'ita amayu derabanan. That's the case if he's already prayed the ne'ilah, and even if we said like Rav that it was only one amida, what's the rabbi's problem, right? What's their reasoning to say that he can't go to the mikveh later in the day? Kasavre Rabbanan. It must be that the reasoning of the rabbis is as follows. Tvila bismana mitzvah. That immersion in the mikveh at the required time, okay, at the proper time, is clearly a mitzvah, okay, implying that he really has to go to the mikveh in order to be able to continue the rest of the day, okay, even if he did not need to pray ne'ilah. Okay? Miklal, the Rabbi Yossi Savar love mitzvah? Do we infer from this that Rabbi Yossi thus does not hold that immersion in the mikveh at the proper time is a mitzvah? Vahatanya. But aren't we taught elsewhere in a Braita? Harei shahaya shem katuv al bisaro, that if there is a situation where an individual has the divine name, I'm going to say roughly tattooed or written somehow on his skin, and he's required to go to mikveh, harei zeh lo yirchatz v'lo yasuch v'lo ya'amod b'makom hatinofet. Then this person cannot wash that area on his body. He can't put oil on that, anoint his body with oil on that location, nor can he stand near a garbage pile or anything else, a filthy place. Nizdamna lo tvilat mitzvah. And if for some reason there is a situation that requires him to do a ritual immersion to fulfill a mitzvah, korech alav gemi, he wraps that location over where the divine name is inscribed on his skin. He puts a reed or some covering over it. Korech olav gemi, v'yored v'tovel. And then he may go down and immerse. Rabbi Yossi Omer, yored v'tovel kedarko. According to Rabbi Yossi, he may go down, in other words, remember the steps to go into the mikveh, okay, and immerse in the normal manner. Bilvad shalo yeshaf. But that's only so long as he does not rub, right, the area where the divine name is written. Going on, v'kaimalam the tvila bismana mitzvah pligi. And that seems to establish that their disagreement, okay, is not necessarily regarding mitzvah at its proper time. Okay? Why? Because if he says one could still do it just by covering it, it would seem to imply that Rabbi Yossi still says requires mitzvah tvila bismana. Okay? Therefore, what happens? The Gemara further delineates and says, Hahi Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudahi. That Rabbi Yossi that we're talking about, okay, in the Braita is actually Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya who taught, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, what did he teach in a Braita? Daya litfila shetahe be'acharona. That it's sufficient, he says, for the immersion to be at the end. What does it mean at the end? Well, the Gemara has to clarify that, right? In other words, if it's a situation where the, let's say, woman has to immerse a number of times during the day, it's only the last one that really is the one that counts. Right? Tanu Rabbanan. And we have a Braita. Haro'eh keri biyom haKippurim. One who sees that he had an emission, okay, on Yom Kippur Day. Yored v'tovel, okay, goes down and immerses. V'la erev yeshav sheif. And in the evening, he rubs the skin, the area, okay, where the immersion occurred. And so the Gemara challenges this. La erev, you're going to say he'll rub it in the evening. Maida hava hava. What was. In other words, what good does it do rubbing it after the fact, after the immersion? Ela ema, but rather I would say, mi ba'erev yeshav sheif, right? From the evening, okay, in other words, from the night before, the evening first cut of Yom Kippur, okay? That's when he can rub. Kasava mitzvah l'shav sheif, which seems to imply he's under the impression, the indication, the thought that it is a mitzvah to rub the skin from the evening of Yom Kippur. In other words, to remove any kind of item that might be a chatzitza, an obstruction between the water and his direct body. Okay. Now, what happens? So we see now Tane Kame de Rav Nachman, a Tana taught in the name of Rav Nachman, okay, in regards to this kind of a situation. Haro'eh keri biyom HaKippurim, one who sees an emission on Yom Kippur Day, avonotav michulin lo, his sins are forgiven. Vahatanya, but aren't we taught in another Braita, avonotav sidurin, that his sins are arranged against him, right? Mai sidurim, what do we mean arranged? No, says the Gemara. Sidurin lim machel, they're arranged to be forgiven. So we're going to stop right there, all right? And I'm going to pick up on Monday this last little section of the Gemara to do the Siyum, okay? And